Moving along now, according to two new polls, anti-Semitism is growing at an alarming rate on American college campuses. The poll found that 54% of Jewish students reported instances of anti-Semitism on campus during the school year 2013 and 2014. For more on this story, we are pleased to welcome in David Horowitz of the David Horowitz Freedom Center. David is also the author of The Black Book of the American Left, Volume 3, The Great Betrayal. David Horowitz, welcome back to America's Forum.
Thank you, JB. Yeah, there's an epidemic of Jew hatred on college campuses, which is really the center of the jihad, because the instigators of these anti-Semitic attacks are Students for Justice in Palestine, which is a front for Hamas, and the Muslim Students Association, which is a front for the Muslim Brotherhood. They're both actually Muslim Brotherhood organizations. And they are spearheading the attacks on Jews on campus. They chant at their demonstrations, which are funded by universities. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Well, the river is the eastern boundary of Israel. The sea is the Mediterranean, the western boundary. So that means the destruction of the Jewish state, which is an act of genocide. We have created a website called Jew Hatred on Campus, JewHatredOnCampus.org. And we conducted a poster campaign on 50 campuses in this last week, attacking the Students for Justice in Palestine, this Hamas front, as Jew haters. And now, of course, we're being investigated because students who put up the posters used glue, and that the university is investigating the David Horowitz Freedom Center for acts of vandalism.
David, a minute remains right now in this particular segment. I'm curious about this. Of the campuses, and you're situated there in California, of the campuses, which are the most notorious for this outbreak of anti-Semitism?
We published a list of the 10 worst campuses, starting with Columbia University. It's on our website at JewHatredOnCampus.org.
And we see the list right here, the top 10: Columbia, Cornell, George Mason, Loyola in Chicago, Portland State, San Diego State, San Francisco State, Temple in Philadelphia, and UCLA, not to mention Vassar for good measure. David Horowitz, as always, we appreciate your time. As a matter of fact, we're going to have David stay through the break. We will talk more about important stories from someone who's been there and back on the left. David Horowitz, more with him when we come back on America's Forum. America's Forum to continue the conversation with David Horowitz of the David Horowitz Freedom Center. David, we appreciate the fact you're Skyping in from Southern California, and it is the use of the internet for a variety of applications, including Skype, that we need to talk about now. You have spoken at length about how the left tries to redefine terms, and as you and I are speaking right now, the FCC is meeting to pass out new regulations on so-called net neutrality. Is what is proposed, is that in any way remotely neutral when it comes to usage of the internet?
Not when a Democratic agency is proposing it. You know, as I've said many times, the Democratic Party is now a progressive party, which means it's a party whose agenda is to control everybody's life. It's a totalitarian agenda. The left, the political left that I came out of and that Barack Obama is still a part of, now rules the Democratic Party. It is no longer, certainly not the party of John F. Kennedy, whose politics were really no different from Ronald Reagan's. It's a very left-wing party, and whatever it does, it's got dangers involved in it. There's a definite problem with the internet that is without some sort of regulation, the giant internet providers like Google will control the content. And while we don't want a monopoly controlled by one or two or three mega corporations, we don't want Barack Obama and his leftists regulating it either. The first thing they're going to do is start taxing us. And we've seen how they run the IRS. So we don't want the government, suppressing its political opposition through the internet. So these are very troubled times. As long as the Democrats are in power, this country is in deep trouble. I mean, and it's domestically, of course, and also in terms of the war against us, in which our president has leaned consistently towards the other side.
About 3 minutes remain, David, and I want to turn to another topic where it appears the left continues to advance, and that is this fight on Capitol Hill over funding the Department of Homeland Security. Mitch McConnell decided to separate out the immigration component for a, quote, clean bill. Every senator, save two, Jeff Sessions and Jim Inhofe, voted to separate those two pieces of legislation. In taking this action, do you believe that Senate Republicans are once again caving to allow Mr. Obama to continue his executive amnesty?
Well, I think the world of Jeff Sessions, and I'm also a fan of Senator Inhofe, but I'm not sure. Look, we have, again, a very difficult situation, and the Democrats are determined to destroy our southern border. This is a national security issue. And they, because they're in thrall, I guess, to this Manchurian president that we have, who has tilted against America, against Christians, against Jews, and yet still remains popular. So it's a difficult situation. I don't have enough insider knowledge. I haven't talked to Sessions recently, so I don't really know the implications of the separation. On the surface, it seems to me like a good idea. So the Democrats can be shown to be opposing a secure borders, and we can get the Homeland Security Department funded. I think it probably was a mistake to create this bureaucratic monster, the Department of Homeland Security, in the first place. One of the mistakes after 9/11.
Well, certainly in retrospect, David, as we take a look at this, what concerns me, having once taken a look at trying to get to the U.S. Senate, but losing a primary, so many senators seem content to say, there's been a court ruling that shows the president can't move forward. We know that ruling is being appealed, and it just seems like senators are not exercising their legislative authority, waiting on the courts. But you have the last 30 seconds.
Unfortunately, cowardice among politicians is also kind of epidemic. It goes with the job. You try to avoid difficult stands. That might cost you votes. You're familiar with that, JD.
Oh, yeah. Some of my friends are for it. Some of my friends are against it. I'm going to stick with my friends. I know that whole deal. David, the book that you have just authored, The Black Book of the American Left, Volume 3, The Great Betrayal. David Horowitz, we thank you for your time. We hope you'll stay with us, because when we come back, General Michael Hayden will be here to talk intelligence and the IDing of Jihadi John.